Occupiers appreciate the reporting. Thank you. Joining me now, Mike Rogers, CNN national security commentator. He's also the former Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and our CNN legal analyst, Laura Coates. Nice to have you both here. And Chairman Rogers, to you first. Just looking at the president's own words that we read a moment ago this morning, attacking the head of the FBI and the Justice Department, saying they've politicized to hurt Republicans, to help Democrats. I mean, these are two Republicans that the president himself appointed. It's a very direct attack. What happens to them? What happens to Rosenstein? What happens to Wray?
Well, I don't know what happens to Rosenstein, but I can say that Wray, this whole notion that Wray should resign over a disagreement with the president, even if it doesn't come out the way he wants it, I think he shouldn't do that. The Bureau needs consistency. The men and women who are getting up every day and fighting crime and catching spies and just cyber criminals and the whole lot, they deserve to have some stability at the top, and I think the Director Wray can provide that. So I hope we even get out of this talk about him thinking about quitting or not quitting. Unless he's told to do something illegal, that's a different standard. But I think, listen, we're in for a long fight here, pal, so let's stick to your guns. Take your position. If you don't win today, get up tomorrow and make sure the Bureau is the best organization ever.
And I should note to our viewers who might not know this, I mean, when Comey was fired last year as head of the FBI, you were interviewed as a possible replacement. So if you were in Wray's shoes, well, what would you be doing right now?
Well, I think I'd be doing exactly what he's doing. You've got to push back. You've got to make your case. I would press Congress to say before you release it, you should at least have the courtesy to have the FBI and the people who are worried about its contents being exposed in the public have their court in front of the Intelligence Committee. I do the same in the Senate. I would make that case. If he loses, however, and this is exactly what I was saying, you don't just say, I'm going to take my toys and go home. You say, listen, that one didn't come out. I've got a lot of other big issues to fight for, and I'm going to continue to stand up for the men and women of the FBI. I think that would be the right position for him.
Laura, to you, legally, Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's on the program next hour with us, she wrote that she thinks that if this memo is released by the White House, the Department of Justice and the FBI should take legal action against the White House to prevent irreparable harm. Now, I'm going to ask her what she means. She's an attorney as well. But, I mean, is there any legal recourse here for those departments against the White House?
I don't know what the legal recourse would be for them to do just that, other than to say that you're looking for injunctive relief for national security interests. And, of course, both the Supreme Court and many other courts who are Article III judges are all about making sure you have this balancing act, Poppy. The idea we're always balancing our individual rights and access to freedoms against national security interests. And so if that pendulum swings in favor of national security, then, of course, a court should say that this should not be released. However, it need not get to that, because I think that reasonable minds could agree prior to having this be in a court of law that there are national security concerns about undermining the major investigative arm of the Department of Justice for what seems to be a pretextual reason based on the politicization of this investigation.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask you on that, too, just looping into all of that, Laura. Is it problematic that we still don't, I mean, problematic for these reasons, that we still don't know whether Nunes or his team worked with the we don't know if Nunes' team worked with the White House on this at all because he wouldn't clearly answer those questions in his committee?
It's extraordinarily problematic that you're going to have bald assertions allegedly included in this Nunes memo without substantiation, without access to the evidence that's underlying the claims, without the opportunity for a competing interpretation to be out in the public eye, for a wink and a nod to be held to be sufficient for the American people to undermine the FBI's otherwise integrity-based productions and investigations. But here's the other thing. The irony of this, Poppy, is if this Nunes memo is what we believe it to be, saying that, look, you've got a FISA memo or a FISA warrant that was issued without substantial information to support it, not enough evidence. You had the FISA court rubber stamping and saying, listen, I believe you whatever you say, FBI, with a wink and a nod. Isn't that precisely what Nunes is asking people to do? No substantiation, no evidence, nothing else, and just wink and a nod. Believe me, if you knew what I knew, you'd go ahead and have this happen. It's unbelievable.
I have 30 seconds. Chairman Rogers, just finally to you. The FBI this morning still saying, according to reporting from our Jessica Schneider, it has grave concerns about the accuracy of the memo. If this is released, what does it say about the president's lack of faith and trust in the institution itself when it comes to the president with other major national security issues, terrorism concerns, et cetera? Does this change the whole dynamic, the whole balance?
Well, it certainly turns it upside down. And you know, the committee of which this came out of is designed to be nonpartisan, or at least bipartisan. It is national security, the most sensitive things that our government does, and it's really needed for the oversight purposes. And what they've done in all of this is bring, I think, they've reduced the credibility of this committee to do its job, number one, and it certainly raises questions about allowing the men and women to do their job in the FBI in a way they think they need to do it.
Look, you're echoing comments from Democratic Senator Joe Manchin to Chris Cuomo last night saying essentially the same thing. And you're the Republican who used to chair this committee. We appreciate having